Welcome to Selfish Confidence, a place where we can connect and be real about how hard it is to be your damn self. My name is Jess, and my goal is to help you build confidence and belief in yourself to live any life path you want, even if it's unconventional. It's time to flip off societal pressures and connect with women who've also felt on the outside by their life choices. We're here to encourage you to grab the mic and speak your truth. I know it can be scary, but we're in this together. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Selfish Confidence Podcast. It's Jess here, and today is a really special day because I'm sitting with a very good friend of mine and someone who has a very special story to share with you today. Welcome, Hillary McGinnis.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to chat with you. We've been wanting to do this for a while, and I feel like every time it's like, oh, we'll move it to here, or we just didn't get it on the calendar. And I'm so glad that we finally could sit down and chat.
Me too. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. So can you tell us a bit about you, Hillary, and where your beautiful story got started?
Sure. So my name is Hillary. Currently, I'm a business and mindset mentor. I help women grow their business while creating a life that they love through self-care, embodiment, and simplified strategy. I also have a 5-year-old daughter, husband, a golden retriever, and now a cat. I'm a podcaster, social media manager. I'm certified in yoga and mindfulness, and I've recently been diagnosed with ADHD. So I wear a lot of hats, and it's been quite a wild journey. So I guess.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background too?
Yeah,
Hillary?
so I guess it starts years and years ago. I went to university and I became a teacher. And truthfully, during those years, I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. But I had this pressure placed on myself that I needed to figure it out right away because my friends all knew what they wanted to do. And, I just felt oh, I'm at this age, I should have my life figured out by now. But I always struggled with that. But anyway, I ended up getting the degree and became a degree in education. And I ended up moving across the country, landed the permanent full-time teaching position. And I was teaching for over 5 years full-time. And honestly, throughout, especially those first 3 years, I felt okay, I did it. I got everything on paper. Everything looks good. I did it, But while I was teaching, especially once I had my daughter, things started to shift a little bit. And when I was teaching, I also was dipping my toes into the network marketing industry. As you know, I was a Beachbody coach on the side. And basically, I realized during this time, I saw all of the potential and all of the opportunities and stuff that was available in the online space. And while I was teaching, I was pouring a lot of time into that. And I enjoyed it for a while, but I felt kind of stuck because it was I felt like I didn't want to teach anymore because I felt like it was pulling me away from my daughter. But I also didn't want to do Beachbody anymore. So I was kind of at this place where I was what do I do now? But I knew I needed to change. So I didn't know what that looked like. And I really struggled with that for a while because I was, especially the teaching thing, because I went to school, I had the permanent job, I had everything on paper, things looked really good. But I knew I didn't want to do it anymore. So my anxiety was really high. I ended up taking a bit of a medical leave for a while just to kind of figure out where do I go from here. And I kept having this tug to start my own business because, like I said, I enjoyed the business aspect of network marketing, but I didn't want to be partnered with the company per se anymore, right? So I think that network marketing really helped me discover that entrepreneurship was where I wanted to be. And I really wanted to do my own thing and have that flexibility, but I felt kind of like I was stuck doing the teaching thing as well. So that was a little messy for a while. But then in 2020, I ended up launching this business that I do now. And I was really successful with it right from the get-go, which was super exciting. And I ended up resigning from my teaching career that same year, which was super terrifying. And yeah, there was a lot of emotions, but I just knew this was the next step for me. And now fast forward 3 years later, here I am working this business and I love what I do. But yeah, it was a bit of a messy path to get here, and that's kind of the condensed version of it, but here we are.
And I think a lot of people can relate to that, like, successful career choice, the safe career choice,
Yeah.
the one that's praised by so many. Like, you're a teacher, wow. Like, the work that you do is so important and so special. To step away from that can be really hard. So how did you find that courage to actually, like, step away from a career that is so praised and so loved by the world to something that looks totally different, and to a lot of people, especially the older generation, super weird online, the online life?
Yeah. Oh, it was tough. I think I was really worried about like letting my parents down and having like those conversations with those people who don't quite understand the online space and what's possible out there. So yeah, like I think when I was on that medical leave for like my anxiety, because I was having panic attacks and everything, like it was a really tough time because I knew I was unfulfilled and I didn't want to do it anymore, but I was just so afraid of doing something else or letting everybody down kind of thing. But I think I just got to this point, and my husband was super supportive of everything as well. And he was like, you gotta, like, you have to do something else kind of thing. So really, I just kind of had to just decided like, okay, I have to do it. And I did have that conversation. I remember like shaking, sweating, all the things. Oh my gosh, like, what are they going to think? And everyone was so understanding. And it was like, okay, like I psyched myself out for so long because I was so worried about letting people down and people not getting it. And no doubt, like there's still moments where I'm like, yeah, they don't understand. Like I know it's very confusing to some people in my world, but um, just deciding to have that conversation and just doing it just lifted this huge weight off of my shoulders. So I think then knowing that I was struggling so hard, doing what I didn't want to be doing, and then finally moving past that and doing something else really helped them too. Like not help them, but help them understand because they didn't want to see me struggling either, kind of thing.
Yeah, I totally get that. And what a crazy time to do it in 2020. It's like, yeah,
Oh yeah.
let's freaking go. What better
Me
time?
too.
Because that's really, yeah.
Yes, it was like the year of the curveball or whatever. And I was like making all these plans. And then I'm like, oh, I'll just leave my comfortable career and the world's just shutting down around me. Yeah, it was a wild, wild
Yeah, what
year.
a year filled with change. And speaking of change, you recently made a really big change in your business. It's been like, again, the year of change continues for you. And so can you tell us a bit about the big changes that you've been doing in your business recently?
Yeah, so near the end of last year, I started to feel really stuck in my business. So, like I mentioned before, I started the business, things were going really well. But near the end of last year, I just felt really stuck and I was really burnt out. And basically, I became a workaholic. Like, I was working all hours of the day. I was getting up super early in the morning. I would go straight to my office, start working all throughout the day. I was staying up super late to work. Like, that it was consuming me for sure. But I wasn't noticing that right away. I was just like, the more that I do, the quicker I'll move forward in my business kind of thing. And
Side note on that like comes from network marketing too, right? That mindset of like, the more I do, the further I'm going to get along. And I know that's like one of those things that we have to unlearn from network marketing too, but interesting that you would say that.
yeah,
Sorry to interrupt.
no, that's okay. You're 100% right. And I think like actually there's a lot of things that come up in my business where I'm like, I learned that years ago and it's still kind of ingrained into my brain. But that was one of those things, like the more you do, like every minute that I had, it was like work, work, work. And what, like I didn't notice it at the time, but I was like, I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't prioritizing my family. I was tired, obviously. I wasn't leaving any room to rest or anything like that. Like it was just steady, go, go, go. And that's why I felt so stuck because I was basically trying to force things to happen, but I wasn't taking care of myself. And therefore I wasn't getting the success that I wanted to see. So it was just like a pile of like emotions and frustration and just being burnt out. And because of this, I decided I had to kind of like take a small step back and kind of reevaluate what I was doing. And I ended up pivoting how I was running my business as a whole. So the start of this year, I started doing things completely different. I started changing up how I like do things, including like my programs, how I help my clients, even just like switching up the type of business mentor that I am as well, right? Like incorporating a lot more mindset and mindfulness and self-care into that. And things just felt way better. And I think it's because, again, I was forcing all these things, but I was also trying to do a lot of the things and saying a lot of the things that other people were like preaching about. So I was trying to kind of fit in that container, but I was losing my own voice as well. So it was like I wasn't being myself. I wasn't staying true to me. And I was working 24 hours around the clock, it felt like. And I completely just hit this wall. And I'm like, hey, something has to change.
Yeah. And so you went from like this coach essentially just hustling freaking hard all the time, teaching people how to have a business and essentially like that, right? Working really hard all the time, to this new platform that you have that I love so much. That's all about teaching people how to have a business while taking care of themselves.
Yes. And I feel like it is so important because you hear like, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And it can be really overwhelming because a lot of the stuff contradicts itself, for one. And then other people's way of doing things is going to be different than someone else. And that's okay. But I think when you get stuck in like that hustle mentality and you're consuming all of this stuff, you're trying to do all of these different things. And then it's almost like beating your head off the wall because you're like, nothing's working. I'm doing all of these things. And then you lose sight of like your values and the reason you started the business in the first place. And that's what happened to me. And so I kind of had to go back to those basics as well. And it's like, my family is number one, and taking care of myself is a non-negotiable. And I was letting all of those things slide. And because of that, that's why I felt so stuck and why I was feeling unfulfilled again. I was going back to that feeling of being unfulfilled and almost quitting my business.
Which we're so glad you didn't do. But it's interesting too how that like that's what the world tells us. If you want to be a business owner, this is how you have to do it.
Yeah.
Like it has to be hard. It has to be all the time. And like you left a successful career to spend more time with your daughter and spend more time with your family. But then you're working till like 9 p.m. every night. And you're just like, why did I even like leave to live like this?
Exactly. And I had that thought so many times. I'm like, this is not why I did this. And now, and that's why I had to kind of reflect back to 2020 as well, because I'm like, things were going well and I was excited and I was happy. And I'm like, what was different there? And of course, anything that's new is exciting, but like diving deeper into those other little things, I'm like, I was taking better care of myself. I was being more mindful of my time and spending more time with like my daughter and things like that. And then I'm like, whatever happened along the way, I think I just got so wrapped up in what everybody else was doing. And I was just trying to do more of that and trying to be more of that. And it was like, that doesn't fit my lifestyle. And I'm doing a lot of things that were not aligned for me. And therefore I felt stuck, kind of thing.
I love that theme for you too. Like, it's just like you were stuck in network marketing, stuck in teaching, stuck in business mentorship. And so what would you do if you got stuck again? Like if you were doing right now and you're just like, maybe I am stuck or putting myself in a box, or with the work that you do, what would you do?
I feel like I would notice it much quicker, and I would know, okay, it's time for me to take that small step back, like just step on the brakes a little bit. Because I feel like too, when it comes to like our business and stuff, we feel like if we stop or take that rest or take that time to reflect or whatever you got to do, we're worried that our business is just going to burn to the ground or something like that. Right. But I know that's not the case now. So I think if I notice those feelings come up again, it's more so like take that time to do whatever. Instead of trying to force yourself to do more things. Because when I was feeling like that burnout and exhaustion and stuff, and I finally took that time off, I gained so much clarity on what I was doing and what I wanted to be doing and so on and so forth. So I think that would just be the first step, would be just slow down, take that time off to just be and reflect, and also just getting some support in that area as well, because even just talking it out with people or having a mentor can really help you gain that clarity on what's causing you to feel stuck.
Yeah, I love that. And like pivoting and changing, it seems like it's a theme for you. And I think society tells us that we can't do that. It's like you pick your job, you stay in your job, you do the things, or you picked your business, you stay in your business, you do the things. When someone changes their mind, the rest of us are like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, you can't do that. Like, we do this till we die. And I love that you don't do that. And I think that that is the most beautiful thing about everything that you do and how you've built your business. It's like, even if you were to change again, you're just like, I would figure it out. Like, I just change. So like, if someone were listening to this and they're like, I want to make a change too. Like, this is freaking scary, but like, I want to do it. Like, I'm freaking tired. What would be their first step to take some action?
During that time, I was super overwhelmed, and I was in tears a lot. I think because I was just like, what am I doing? I don't even want to do this business anymore. I did talk to my husband about it, because I know people talk about quitting your business a lot, but we just say it because things feel hard every now and then. But like, I was dead serious. I was going to quit my business. I was going to go back to teaching. It's like all these things. And he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. He's like, you're not going back to teaching. We're not going down that road again. And he's like, you're not going to give up everything that you built up until this point. So for me, I knew he was right. I was just, being a little over dramatic and whatever. And I'm like, no, I can't.
Don't we hate that? Ugh.
So I'm like, okay, no, you're right. But yeah, like the first thing that I did was I took that time off, and then I started taking better care of myself. So I started like going to more yoga, started doing things more for myself each day. I wasn't putting that pressure on myself to show up for my business every single day. Like, I was still working with my clients and stuff behind the scenes, but when I came to like the front end of things, I wasn't forcing myself to do things. And then when I did create content there for a little while, there was no like motive, I guess. Like, I wasn't trying to specifically sell something. Like, I was just posting content that felt really good. And a lot of it was like relating to what I was kind of going through at that time, if that makes sense. So a lot of more like empowering things, just kind of even like inspiring myself, like to make that shift and make those pivots, even though I wasn't 100% sure what that was going to look like. Yeah, like just kind of showing up in a way that didn't have that pressure tied to it, not trying to do things a certain way, just kind of like testing out things, playing around, and whatever came to me, I was just like putting that kind of stuff out there, and that felt really good. And that kind of helped me to see like, this is more of what lights me up, as opposed to just telling people like, this is what you should do to grow your business kind of thing. And I think I also had this like thought that was trapping me, where I thought, okay, well, if I'm a business mentor, I have to be sharing content about these things. But it wasn't me at all. Like, every time I work with clients and we talk about business and stuff, I help them figure out ways to build a business that works for them. There's no like set in stone, like you have to do this, this, and this, but I was still trying to do those things on the front end, if that makes sense. So I kind of like just stopped all of that. And another thing that I found really helped me too was putting my blinders on. I muted a lot of accounts. Like, I went through my list and I just started muting or unfollowing, like depending on who it was. Because that was something I noticed I was doing a lot of, was consuming what they were doing, comparing myself to what they were doing, and then also trying to do more of what they were doing, like trying to fit myself back into that box. And once I put my blinders on and just started creating stuff like kind of from the heart, even if it wasn't even related to a program that I was selling at the time, I still just started posting those things, and it felt really good. And then yeah, like most of December, I took off. Like we went away there for a while. And then when I came back, I just knew like that was the type of content I wanted to be creating. This was the type of business that I wanted to work. So again, I feel like when you're making these changes and these pivots, it can be really messy. Like I still have moments right now where I'm like, what do I identify myself as? Like, clearly I help with business, but I don't want to be just a business coach, like, because I know it's deeper than that. And I think the way that I coach my clients, the things that I help them do now is a lot more unconventional than what you do see other business mentors doing. But yeah, like it's kind of like a messy in between stage where you're kind of back and forth on like, what am I doing? What does this look like? What do I call myself? I think I changed like the title of my Instagram like 20 times since November. Like, what am I? But I think that's something important for people to realize too when they are like they want to make a big change or they want to pivot in some shape or form. Like, allow it to be messy and don't beat yourself up because it's messy. Because I know for myself too, like because everything wasn't like super linear and it was like, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing, and it wasn't laid out perfectly. There was a lot of like testing things out, seeing what felt good, like, yeah, it can feel messy, but messy can be good.
And it still feels kind of messy sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah. But you gain so much clarity once you do it, I find.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not messy, it's not fun, right? Don't you remember when you were a kid and you put your hands in the paint and you were so dirty and it was so much fun? Like, it's just like that. Get dirty, get fun. And I wanted to know too, because you essentially pivoted the direction of so many different things, including like your podcast and your business and how you talk on social media. Did anyone ever reach out to you and be like, Hillary, like, I can't believe you changed this, or like, oh my gosh, I noticed the change, like all of these things, like, because I think that's the thing that holds a lot of people back from making a change, especially when they have an online presence, when they've built a name around something that the world is going to, I don't know, call them out or judge them or, not like the change and not follow you along on the journey. Like, have you had anyone reach out to you and been like, Hillary, I can't believe you made this change. Unfollow, you suck.
No, I haven't. And I'm glad you brought that up because that is something that I've struggled with like over the years, because I do make those changes when I feel like I need to pivot or make a change. That is always the first thing that comes up is, oh, people aren't going to take me seriously, or somebody's going to call me out, or, like I'm going to be judged or whatever. But I've never had anyone say anything to me about that. And I think what happens is we get inside of our heads, and I think we're all guilty of this, but we get so caught up in what we think other people are going to say or what they're going to think or what have you. But at the end of the day, people are not paying as much attention to you as you think they are, right? Like, things are happening in your world, you're making these changes, you're like, but that doesn't mean all of your followers are seeing that or that they're even noticing all of that. Like, I know there's been a few times with you, I've told you like, yeah, I took a few days off. I didn't really show up a lot or whatever. And you're like, really? I didn't even notice. And I'm like, yeah, I know you wouldn't notice it. Right. But for ourselves, like, because we sometimes, and again, I think this goes back to network marketing as well. But like, even the showing up on the front end of things for our business, we take a couple days off. We feel like, oh no, like our business is doomed, or like, people are going to notice, but people don't notice. Like, no. I really don't think people notice that you went blackout on Instagram for 2 days kind of thing. So I think that's an important piece to remember as well, is you get to change your mind. You get to pivot if you want to, you get to change things up if you want to. And people aren't going to notice. And if they do, well, then they're not your people. Like if they have an issue with it, that's not on you. But again, I've been through a lot of changes and pivots and whatever, and nobody has directly said to me, like, what are you doing? kind of things.
I love that. I love that because I think that's always, and I have that fear too, right? That people are going to call you out or they're going to say like, oh, like, I can't believe you did that. Or like, oh my gosh, you changed your mind so much. But nobody's ever messaged me about that either. So, if you're listening to this and you're afraid to change who you're talking to or to change your business or to change everything in your life, like everything. Yeah, some people might think some things behind your back, but they're never going to say it to your face. Like they just won't. And like, if they're going to say it behind your back, like, let them talk about me, please.
Exactly.
I would love to be the center of your world. Thank you so much.
It's so true.
Right. And I know it holds me back a lot too. And even when I pivoted in my podcast, who I was essentially talking to here, and it was not even that big, it was very tiny. Nobody ever really questioned it. A few people were like, oh, I wonder if that's still for me. And I was like, well, let me know. And they are still listening to this day. So it's really up to you and that gut feeling. And I think if you're just like you, Hillary, if you start to follow that alignment, that feeling that you're just like, oh, like, I just need to do what's right for me, people will come. They will be attracted to you. They're going to be attracted to you more if you follow your gut and follow what you're supposed to do than if you stay miserable and sad, working till 9 p.m. every night. You're just like never seeing your family ever again.
Well, exactly. And that's why I was so stuck and couldn't move the needle forward for a while there, because I was trying so hard to do things a certain way and afraid of what, other people thought or what have you, and once I decided to just lean in and do what felt right, it's again, that weight just lifted off my shoulders and it's so much easier to show up for my business now. So it pays to make those changes when you feel called to do it.
Amazing. How do you make your mental health a priority with your work and with your business and with your family and with everything on your plate?
So for me, mental health is a big thing for me, as you know, just with the anxiety and now ADHD and all of the things. But for me right now, and I find this changes depending on the season that I'm in. But for right now, and it's been like this for a while, I really like to get up in the morning and just pour into myself first thing. And this can look different. This can look differently for everyone. And I know for me, sometimes it could be meditating, journaling, working out, going for a walk, those sort of things. But I don't make it so that it has to be this structured routine every single morning. Does that make sense? Like I'll get up every morning and be like, ooh, I feel like journaling this morning. Or I'll be like, oh, it's really nice out. I'm going to go for that walk and listen to a podcast. Or I feel like reading this morning or whatever it is, I feel like in that morning, I will do that. And I find just by carving out that chunk of time for myself each morning and not having it this like super structured routine where I have to do X, Y, and Z and check things off boxes. I just feel really good starting the day. Right. And just by doing that, like I feel better. I show up better for my family. I show up better for my business and my work. So basically I've made it like a non-negotiable at this point. So every morning I will get up and I'm going to do something for me, whether I have 5 minutes that morning or I have 30 minutes, because mom life sometimes throws curveballs as well, but I let that be okay. Instead of trying to be like, okay, I have to do this at this time and it has to look like this. That's improves my mental health big time, because if I do skip a day, because at one point I was doing it 5 days a week and then weekends were just kind of free for all. And I noticed on weekends I would get like more anxious or just like not myself. And I'm like, I need to do this every single morning. So now that I do that, I just feel so much better. And then the other thing is prioritizing rest, which was the one thing I wasn't doing last year. But prioritizing that rest. So like getting enough sleep at night, taking breaks when needed, and allowing myself to take like an unplanned day off to do whatever and not feeling guilty about it. I find that's been very helpful, because sleep is important for one. Like when you don't get enough sleep, like it impacts you big time. And then even like just taking those breaks, like sometimes I'll have like a lot of calls during the day, so I'm sitting a lot. So I'm like, I will schedule in little like walking breaks or whatever, because I know that's going to make me feel better. So just making sure you're prioritizing like those breaks and rest and, taking those evenings off or taking weekends off, whatever that looks like for you. Like it doesn't have to be a concrete way of doing it, but ensuring that you're still resting and taking those breaks. I find that's really, really helpful.
Oh, yeah. Sleep was always number one for me. I thought in order to be a good coach, you had to be the person who woke up at 5 a.m. and did all the things and checked all the boxes and had to be perfect. And you had to have this wonderful, beautiful morning routine with 1,800 steps. Like I thought that's what you had to do in order to be a coach. No one was going to hire a coach who didn't get up at 5 a.m. Am I right? And when I finally threw that out the window, because you are not going to see me at 5 a.m. unless I'm catching a flight, like ever, I started to feel so much better, allowing myself to sleep in and to wake up without an alarm. And, oftentimes, yeah, it's the same time every day, but just like allowing myself that slowness in the morning was exactly what I needed. So I love that you put rest in there, because we don't think that in business. Yeah, sure. Some people will say it like, oh yeah, you should take a day off. They don't mean it. It's the truth. You should take a day off, but a lot of people
should. Like I teach this to my clients as well. It's like, where are you scheduling in your breaks? What days are you taking off? Like, when are you signing off from social media or Voxer or whatever through the day? Because I'm like, you need to have that downtime to just be. But yeah, rest and sleep, it's so important, and it is a business growth activity or a money making activity, like through and through, because if you're not resting, you're not going to show up as your highest self, and then stuff's going to get hard.
Yeah. I had a couple days last week. So like I can track my stress and my sleep on my watch. And there was a couple days last week that it was just really busy. I didn't get a lot of sleep. It did not look good. And I was like, my stress was so high compared to a day when I actually got sleep. And I was like, oh, like it's for real. Like we do need good sleep.
Oh, 100%. Even though sometimes we're like, oh, but I have this time, I could be doing X, Y, and Z. And it's like, yeah, but you could also do that tomorrow. Like you just, yeah.
Yeah.
That's something I really had to work through as well.
Oh yeah. It was a hard one. It was a hard one. And doing it your way was a hard one for me too, because I just, again, like you, I loved that you muted people on social media, because like you would see other people doing their things and being successful and having great businesses and you're like, oh, I have to do it like that. And you don't. You have to do it your way.
And when you try to do things a certain way, even if it feels unaligned or it doesn't feel good for you, it's going to be really hard to move things forward.
Yeah. It just feels like that pull, like that stuck feeling that you had. It's like, oh, can't get out of this mud. I love it. So what is the best thing that you've learned on this journey of self-discovery?
I know this one is recent, but one thing that I love that I discovered, even though it's very new, is just being diagnosed with ADHD. It was real eye-opening, because I always thought there was something wrong with me. For one, all of these changes that I always tried to make and wanting to shift from job to job and whatever, like I always thought, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just be, content doing this one thing? And also because like I often doubted myself. Like I never felt like I was good enough. And I just felt like there was something wrong with me because of the way I was. I didn't feel like I was doing things the way everybody else did, kind of thing. So I think getting that confirmation from my doctor, my therapist just recently was almost like a relief, because I'm like, all these things that I've been learning about, they kind of make a little more sense now. And I'm like, that's really interesting. Like, I don't know, it's almost like that relief. And it also helped me to like understanding now, like 9-to-5 jobs are not a good fit for me. Personally, I know they serve a lot of people. I really do. Yeah. Like, I will never like get here and say 9-to-5 jobs are horrible and you should never do it or anything like that. Some people thrive in that type of job, right? But I've learned like it is not for me. It's not for me at all. And having more of an unconventional job and lifestyle just works so much better for me, same with you as well. And just learn, like being okay with the fact that I get to live this unconventional life. And despite other people not understanding it or doing things differently, like that's okay. And I feel like that's a hurdle a lot of us have to get over. But just knowing like there's nothing wrong with me. It's just not for me. And this works so much better. Even if I switch careers at the age of 30, like there's nothing wrong with me. I just realized I was just doing things that didn't fit me. If that makes sense.
It does, because I know I'm the same way. And I know, again, even for some business owners, working 9 to 5 for their business works for them. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work for me. Like I had to sit down and read for half an hour before I got on this podcast. Like I knew I needed to cleanse and like come into this with the right. And I wouldn't have been able to do that had I been working in an office. It just doesn't work for me. Can you tell everyone what your human design is?
I'm a generator.
Yeah. And I always find that interesting because for even like I've known you for a while now. So like the way you work, and typically generators can work for days. They have a lot of energy. They can, hustle. But like you're proof that it has to be aligned and it has to be so right. And the way that you work, like I would in my head be like, oh, you're a generator. Of course you could work 9 to 5. You can't. And we need to follow whatever feels right for you. And even if I'm not one to put you in a box because, human design at all, but like, it just helps me to see in my head how interesting every person is and how differently we do things. And it has to be done your way, your unique way. And I love that you're doing that.
Yeah. That's the thing. So like cool. The biggest thing for me too, it's like, I can get there and I can focus. And if I let myself, I can sit here in this office for like 8 hours if I'm working on something that I'm interested in and passionate about, right? Whereas like other jobs and office jobs and whatever that I've worked, I didn't have that passion, so I was bored, and I just really, really struggled with that, like being there all the time. So I guess a big piece of it is being interested in what I'm doing. Then I can keep going. But then sometimes I can go too far. And that's why I need to learn like those boundaries. So there's a lot there, but yeah.
That can also be that hyper-focused ADHD. So
yeah, there's a lot of things in there.
It happens, right?
Like
I totally get it.
Ongoing thing. I'm like, oh, that's why I'm doing this. That's why I do things that way. Okay.
That makes so much sense now. Huh? I totally get it. Do you have any last words of wisdom for our listeners today?
I think the biggest thing would be don't let your fear of judgment stand in the way from going after what you really want. Because like the goals, the desires that you have on your heart, they're there for a reason, and you are more than capable and worthy of going after what you truly want. Despite what society says, despite what your negative thoughts are trying to tell you, if it's something that you really want to do, go for it.
Yeah, preach it, girl. I love it. Where can our listeners connect with you online, Hillary? And what can they expect from your page, from your podcast? What's up?
So my main place to hang out is Instagram. And you can find me there at hillary.mcginnis. And I love connecting with other women over there. So be sure to reach out to me. I also have a podcast, which is the Stay True to You podcast. And I'm slowly doing a little revamp over there. But episodes are still coming out. So be sure to subscribe and check that out as well. In terms of what to expect, it's a mixture of business, self-care, embodiment, snippets of my life. I'm just trying to keep things very high vibe and helping you really develop, like create a business and a life that you truly, truly enjoy.
I love it. And I love your page, especially your brand colors, because they are top notch. I'm a big fan of the pink. So I have a few questions that I ask every guest that comes on the podcast. You ready?
Sure.
Sure. What is your favorite compliment to receive?
Okay. So for me, I personally like being complimented on my personality over my looks. And I think it's because I struggled so long with the confidence in being myself that when people do compliment, my goodness, words are hard right now. When people compliment on my personality, it just hits different as opposed to them like complimenting how I look or whatever, when they really like dive a little deeper there, I'm just like, thank you. Like it just hits different. I don't know.
Yeah. I love your personality. You're always just smiling and having fun and so bright and energetic. It's so beautiful.
Thank
What
you.
is your favorite thing to do to boost your mood when you're feeling grumpy?
Walking is like my go-to for everything. Like walking and listening to a high vibe podcast, I find that can really turn my mood around pretty quickly. But sometimes I don't have the time to do that, especially if I'm just like super grumpy or just in a mood, you know? So I also like to crank the music up in our kitchen and just have a dance party. A lot of the times my daughter joins me, and that is definitely an instant mood booster. You just feel so good after you do that. But those are the two go-tos for sure.
Nothing better than a kitchen party. Like so good.
I know. And then even if you're driving, if you're commuting somewhere and
Oh,
you're just
yeah.
like feeling crappy, I'll just blast like a really good song or something, and oh, it's good.
You should check out the Selfish Sisterhood playlist because it is a high vibe and good energy. And it's what I listen to on the way to like any place in public. I'm like, oh man, I have to have like energy for this. Insert the thing. And I will listen to this playlist and it works every time.
Awesome.
So
yeah, I'll check that out for sure.
check it out. Do you have a song or a quote that boosts your confidence?
There's one that I've been really leaning into recently, and I just read it in a book, but how does it go? It's like envision the woman that you want to become and then start working to become her now. Does that make sense? Envision the woman that you want to become and start to become her now. I think that's that's what I've been really leaning into lately, and I'm really vibing with it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I like that one. Thank you so much, Hillary, for being here and for spreading your light and your truth with us and being so real. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
What's up, sis? I am so glad we could hang out today. If you loved this episode, send it to a friend or share it on your social media and tag me so I can personally thank you for helping me sprinkle some confidence in the world. And don't forget, you are magic. Let's show the world your shine.